You're watching The Opening Statement with your host, Dianne Hart. Now here's Dianne.
Good evening. Welcome to The Opening Statement. I'm your host, Dianne Hart, and this evening I have the pleasure of interviewing a gentleman running for governor, and that is Mayor Jerry Demings out of Orlando, Florida. Good evening, and how are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Representative Hart, for having me on your show today. I look forward to having a conversation and sharing more information about myself and my campaign for governor here in the great state of Florida.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, too. So let's start with some simple things. So where are you from?
Born and raised here in Orlando. I'm a fifth-generation Floridian. My mother is from North Florida. She's from Gaston County. She was born and raised in a small community called Havana, Florida, which is a place where she grew up on sharecroppers' land. My father is from Alabama, and he migrated to the Metro Orlando area as a young adult, and he and my mom got married in 1944 and had 5 children. I'm the youngest of those 5 children, although I have a twin brother. His name is Terry, and Terry is 30 minutes older than I am. We're the youngest of the children.
And I don't think very many people knew that you even had a twin brother.
Yes, I have a twin brother. I have twin sons as well. And believe it or not, my father was a twin also. But Dad had a twin sister. And unfortunately, in Alabama, because of lack of access to quality health care, when he was born in 1922, his sister got sick as a toddler, and she only lived to be just a couple of years old. But suffice it to say, we have 3 generations in a row of twins in our family.
Wow. Now that's big news. Nobody was aware of that, I'm sure. But we're gonna go right into it. Let's talk a little bit about your experiences and what caused you to want to even run for governor of the state of Florida.
I've had a wonderful career now of 45 years of public service. Over these 45 years, I've held a number of titles. And as a result of holding those titles in high-profile positions, a number of people across the state of Florida really came to me and convinced me that I should run for governor because they wanted to see a change in the state of Florida. And so while I run during this race, I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to do the same things that I've done over these 45 years. Having been the now Orange County mayor, serving as one of only 3 countywide elected mayors in the state of Florida. And Miami-Dade has one here in Orlando, Orange County, and then in Jacksonville, Duval. I'm in my 8th and final year due to term limits of being the mayor here. In addition to being mayor, I've served as the countywide elected sheriff. I was a 3-term sheriff here as Orange County sheriff. And then before that, I was deputy county administrator for our county for 6 years. And before that, I spent 21 years with the Orlando Police Department, and I retired in 2002 as chief of police. And so during this career of public service, you can see I've held some high-profile positions.
Absolutely, you have. So let's talk a little bit about what will be your top priorities in your first 100 days once you're elected.
Well, the top priority for me as I would transition into office, the 47th governor of Florida, will be sworn in January of 2027. And so as such, the governor has to have his senior officials in place as he takes office. And so from the point of being elected in November the 3rd to be exact, I would spend that time between being elected and sworn in, looking for talented people, a broad array of people, very diverse array of people who will be appointed to some of those senior level positions in my administration. That will be top of order for me. The second thing is to really get after the redirection of some of the things that I see that have been divisive within the current administration. I will look to strengthen those relationships between the state and the local governments because for the last nearly 8 years now, I can testify that with the current administration, there has been a devolution of relationships between the state and local governments to the detriment of working class people who elect their local officials to support them and to help solve the issue that all of them want to see. And so I want to get back to some civility in government. I want to get back to some normalcy in our government. I want to get back to serving people in a bipartisan way. While I will be elected as a Democrat, I'm not looking to just serve the Democrats. I'm looking to serve all Floridians and make certain that we are responding to their needs. What I know now is that our Floridians, as I have now been all over the state of Florida campaigning, there are some consistent themes that I hear, one of which is related to affordability. Our citizens are concerned about the cost of living. They're concerned about the cost of rent. They're concerned about the cost of health insurance, the cost of property insurance. They're even concerned about how much they pay in taxes. They're concerned about public education and some of the related issues with competition between the public education system and our charter or our parochial schools. I want to level the playing field there in terms of that. Some are concerned about our cruel approach to immigration and customs enforcement as a state and as a nation. I want to get us back to doing the business of the people, treating people with dignity and respect, treating them in a humane way so that they can apply for lawful status, those who are not here to commit crimes, but those who are here to enrich America.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a little bit about where are you on this housing crisis that we see right now? What is it that the constituents of Florida can expect from you when it comes to housing as our governor?
That's a great question because I have a Housing for All plan of action that I have instituted already at the county level. We are the fifth most populated county within the state of Florida, being Orange County. Here in the near future, we'll likely become the fourth most populated county. But we did something here. We created our own locally controlled housing trust fund, where we work with the public sector, we work with the philanthropic sector, and the private sector to create and stimulate the building of affordable workforce housing. I believe that across the state of Florida, if we use the Sadowski Trust Fund, which is the trust fund that was established and codified by the electorate of Florida going back to the 90s, if we use the state's trust fund as it was intended to build and stimulate workforce housing, then we can reduce the cost of housing for those who need it the most. The people who are working class persons, who are low wage earners. And then we can also, by stimulating the production of workforce housing, those who are entrepreneurs, who will build those houses, they profit as well. And so we're not just talking about increasing the prosperity of the low wage earners, but also the middle class persons within our state of Florida. I say this, that I'm not really running to enrich the lives of billionaires or the wealthy, although they are certainly part of our constituency group, but they really don't need my help. They don't really need the help so much of government. It is the working class people within our community, the middle class and below, that needs the help of government. And so I look to put policies and procedures and an execution of a plan within the state of Florida to help build housing that is more affordable for everyone. That creates jobs, by the way. It creates opportunities for our families to thrive. And I'm more focused on taking care of our families.
And that's absolutely critically important. As a legislator, I know exactly what you're talking about. Would you consider expanding Medicaid here in the state of Florida?
Absolutely. That's another top priority of mine, because here in the state of Florida, many people do not have access to quality health care. Certainly, I believe that there's an opportunity to expand Medicaid within our state and get some of those federal tax dollars flowing back into our state that to date, because we've had numerous now administrations that have not looked to expand Medicaid. But I also would like to expand, I should say, the availability of free or low-cost clinics, medical healthcare clinics for our residents. I believe that there's an opportunity for us to do that, to make the cost of healthcare more accessible for the uninsured and the uninsured without unnecessarily taxing the citizens of the state of Florida. And we can do that by appointing a real Secretary of Health, Surgeon General, if you will, who believes in medical science, unlike the one who is currently serving. What my friends in the healthcare industry, the medical doctors, the researchers at our universities are telling me is that the current Surgeon General is outside the general belief system of those who serve in the healthcare industry. And so we want to depoliticize that position and get back to doing the work. And so one of the top things that we'll do is certainly appoint someone that has experience at delivering at the local level and not look to be political person, but one who focus on serving the needs of those in need of health health care. I believe that creating better access to mental health treatment, to substance abuse treatment, to those who suffer with behavioral disorders is going to be key, because the state of Florida ranks near the bottom in terms of what we spend and allocate per capita for individuals to get access to mental health treatment. That is one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about, and I look forward to increasing where Florida ranks and what it spends per capita on mental health treatment. When we get persons who suffer with those illnesses more self-reliant in a self-indulgent world, they're better able to take care of their families. And sometimes some of these persons who have addictions issues or mental health issues or co-occurring issues, they commit crimes because they're out of their heads. And so it really is a smart strategy to reduce crime and to improve public safety by getting people back whole again. We've seen that happen now over the years with a strategy of leading with prevention and intervention. These are proactive strategies as opposed to the reactive strategy of enforcement and prosecution. Certainly, we have to arrest and hold people accountable who commit crimes, but the best crime prevention is to make certain that persons make better decisions and they don't commit the crimes in the first place. And if we can reduce the propensity for persons to get involved in criminal behavior by making certain that they have mental health treatment, it's really being smart on crime. I've seen it work now for the last decades.
I'm certainly looking forward to your leadership. I understand that you know exactly where we're at. You've lived through it. Your family's lived through it. You and I both understand that there's a real crisis in the state of Florida. What do you think, though, is the biggest thing that's plaguing us right this moment?
One of the things that I'm most concerned about here in Florida, and even for our nation, is the devolution of our democracy. We are not a nation where we have an autocracy. That's not what America is all about. And what we're seeing, unfortunately, is a breakdown of the three equal branches of government that is frustrating people, in which we have billionaires and oligarchs who are making the decisions on behalf of everybody else and leaving out those of us who are elected at the local and perhaps even the state level. They are leaving out the average person, those of us who have a right through our vote to voice our opinions. We are seeing, even with the mean-spirited, cruel immigration enforcement that is underway, we're seeing where it is moving Americans to feel some way poorly about the America that we believe in, that one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. There are many people who are frustrated who now feel like they are being marginalized, that they do not have justice. And so we have to work together as Floridians, as Americans, to bring us back together and unite us more around the things that's most important, as opposed to dividing us along the lines of partisan politics that is being experienced and witnessed by so many of us today. And it's almost disheartening. With the wars that are underway, we are seeing America being under attack because of war and other things happening. I believe that we are creating additional foreign and domestic enemies. And I do believe that it's important to enforce our immigration laws, but I think it's also important to do it in a humane way, so we don't inadvertently create additional enemies that will attack us and weaken the overall safety of our very own homeland. It would be certainly sad for me to see our nation at war on American soil. Right now, much of what is happening around the world. But we are seeing different attacks, anti-Semitism attacks here within the U.S. We're seeing schools and universities attacked by persons who have been radicalized, and that is a challenge for us. I want to make certain that we do protect our borders, we protect our airports and our seaports in the process, because Representative, you know, like me, we have all sworn to that same oath that we do solemnly swear that we will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Florida against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I want to make certain that we don't lose sight of what we're supposed to be doing there. And I look forward to using my sum total of public safety experience to make certain that Florida is one of the safest states, if not the safest state in the union.
Well said. We're going to take a break and we will be right back.
Hi, this is Dianne Hart. Be sure to catch my shows as we interview politicians and special guests on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on The Opening Statement, the Lit TV network on Roku. Also, watch Where Are They Now as I interview entertainers of yesterday and today at 7:30 p.m. Detroit Hot TV on Facebook. Thank you.
You're watching The Opening Statement with your host, Dianne Hart. Now here's Dianne.
Welcome back to The Opening Statement. I'm your host, Dianne Hart. I have the awesome pleasure of interviewing Mayor Jerry Demings, who's running for governor, who I think will make a phenomenal governor. Let's talk a little bit of how you might tackle that issue to make sure that fair legislation is being passed. Will you be willing to reverse some of this madness that we have already seen go in place by our current governor? How will you deal with some of this?
Well, I'm looking to create a movement for change. I think it's time to get away from this partisan style of politics, this mean, undignified style of politics, and getting back to having some civility in how we approach things. I'm looking forward to going to Tallahassee and being the governor for all the people of Florida. I'm looking forward to a new day. I want to make certain that we are growing our economy here within Florida by creating entrepreneurial opportunities for everyone to have the opportunity, if they so choose, to own their own business, to own something, to create wealth by owning a business, by owning their home. That is the American dream that we have all aspired to achieve. And that's what makes us great, I think, because we're a melting pot of people who come from all over the world who just want to live well and take care of their families. Right now, we're seeing, because of immigration policies, we're seeing some of the workforce, the immigrant workforce who comes to our state of Florida, they're leaving. And that's creating a strain on those who even work on the farms to deliver our foods to the market. The farmers here in Florida have been hit unseasonably hard this winter season because Florida got cold all the way to the south.
Colder than normal.
The farmers are estimating that they lost $350 million plus in crops. But on top of that, many of them cannot get their crops to market because they don't have the workforce, that are unable to get the H-2A visas in a timely manner. So we do have to create a process by which there's a pathway forward to those persons who are non-criminals, but may be here unlawfully, but we need them to work. This past week, several of the Florida sheriffs even came out and said, wait a minute, some of these people who are working here, they're good people, they're God-fearing people. They're working in agricultural economy, and we need them. They're working in the construction industry. They're the ones on the rooftops and delivering the broad construction projects that we have, because many Americans, quite frankly, don't want to do that work. And so we have to import people from outside the country to do that work. And so now those industries are talking to me about, we need a little help here. We understand that if we have undocumented persons who are criminals, that they need to be deported, they need to be held accountable. But let us not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Let's focus on those individuals who work in the hospitality industries. Here in Central Florida, where I happen to be a countywide mayor, where Disney and all of these major theme parks, Universal is here. We're the #1 tourist destination in North America, one of the top 5 in the world. And as a result of that, we have people coming here. A disproportionate number of those who work in our hospitality industry were foreign born. We need that workforce here. And so I'm an advocate of, while we have to enforce our immigration laws and protect our borders, we also have to make certain that we protect our economy. When we need persons to come in to work in our various industries, that we have adequate workforce, because otherwise we could see our food supply negatively impacted if we are not able to harvest enough food. So those are things that I think are broad issues that we have to be concerned about as Floridians.
Now, I know that there's nothing that you're going to be able to do it before the election takes place, but you know that we're discussing property taxes in Tallahassee. Can you give us your opinion on what do you think of this annihilation of property taxes completely, as opposed to figuring out some kind of other way? I just don't see them getting rid of property taxes because of all the service that one would lose. But what's your take on this property situation?
I will say this, no one wants to pay more taxes than they should be paying. But government, as you know, is put in place to serve all the people. And the way we serve the people is based on our tax revenues. We should not collect more taxes than what we need. I can tell you this, as a mayor, as a sheriff, as a chief of police, we depend on local taxation in order to run all those divisions of government. In order to keep the people safe, it costs money to do that. But we shouldn't be taking in more taxes than we need to get the job done. Good governance always is open to having reviews of how we spend the people's money. There's no scenario that I see where the government can work and function efficiently to serve the people without taxation. I believe that there's no scenario where Florida can eliminate all property taxes because they would have to make that up in some other revenue stream. In our state, one of the reasons that makes us a popular state for people to move into is because we don't have a state income tax. And so because we don't have a state income tax, we can't make it up there. And if we only do property tax reform on homesteaded property, the people who would benefit the most would be those who own homes. If you don't own a home and you're a renter, well, guess what? You live in commercial rental property, and whoever owns that property is going to likely see an increase in their taxation. And if you are the renter, that person is going to pass that increase on to you. And so for those who need a helping hand the most, they likely will be the ones who will pay disproportionately. And so I don't think that that's equity across the board. We should look for inefficiencies in government. And where there are inefficiencies, remove those inefficiencies. I have no problem with being put under audits from time to time to be able to justify what we do. But we certainly can't eliminate it. Representative, because you serve in the state house, you understand, you're there in Tallahassee. The House had a version of a property tax reform that the House passed, but the Senate did not. And it takes both chambers. And even when it passed, that has to be codified. The only way that you can eliminate the property taxes is the voters of Florida will have to vote to do so. That's a change in our Constitution. And so even if the governor and the legislature reach some agreement about what property tax reform looks like, the voter still gets to vote on whether or not that gets implemented or not in the state of Florida. And the bar is high. It would take over 60% of those who would vote at that time to pass it. And so I just don't see, if we educate the public about the consequences of eliminating property taxes, I believe that it will lose some of the broad support that we see today when we have people who will have the conversations about how that will impact you at the local level if there's no property taxes.
I hope as you go around and talking to communities, because I'm doing it every day, and I can tell you that I'm a little afraid that people think that this is a major savings and that they very well may vote for that. Let's switch gears because you can't change it. It's not under your term. And if we get it put into the Constitution, it'll be darn near impossible to get it out. So we've got to fight to ensure that it doesn't happen. And that's all of our jobs, especially those of us who are already elected. We have got to get that message out. And I appreciate you saying that. My thought is that the state of Florida needs an audit. We're spending far more money than anybody without any oversight. So, I mean, is that something that you would take on at your different departments within inside the state of Florida? They all need to have a look. There is some misspending of funding everywhere throughout the state. Monies that we should be putting back into giving it back to the people. Could do you think?
Absolutely, Representative. What I see sometimes with the legislation that comes out of Tallahassee, it sounds like this: do as I say, not as I do. Because in many ways, the restrictions that are placed on local governments, the state doesn't put it on themselves. They don't adequately audit themselves. Every one of these so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE audits that was done on local governments, they missed the mark on every one of them. My community was one of such where they misrepresented the facts. It had nothing to do with an audit to look for best practices of governance. It had all to do with property taxes.
Excuse me for interrupting you. To be perfectly honest, I can say it, you may not. It was because you were blue, period. It had nothing to do with anything inside of governments out of blue counties. If you were blue, you got the crazy red marks saying you spent too much money. And I know that you all were very efficient in how you all had spent your money. I'm there, I'm listening to them talk about your reports and stuff. So I know for a fact that you all were y'all paid close attention to how you spent your money. And you did not go out and spend it crazily, but they make it sound as if you did. But that's because you were blue. That's the bottom.
Yeah, they challenge challenged local governments that spent money on so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, but they really never adequately defined what they meant by that. Sometimes in minority communities, they disproportionately have an experience of the negative sometimes. And what I mean by the negatives, high crime, high teenage pregnancy, high unemployment, and those types of issues where they live in substandard housing. And whenever you have those type of issues, you do have to spend disproportionately to eradicate those negatives. If you say you cannot invest in those communities, what you're ultimately doing is, I think, weakening our ability to lift everyone up who may need a helping hand. In terms of the audits, when I'm elected governor, we're going to get back to doing the business of the state of Florida. We're going to work with local governments. Right now, the state of Florida, the last estimate I saw, was when we lean into doing federal immigration enforcement, the state of Florida opened up these detention facilities like Alligator Alcatraz. It really was a federal responsibility. But as a result of that, the state believed that they were going to get reimbursements from the federal government. Well, they are now short over $570 million. And as a result of that, that's over $500 million that could have gone into the state's budget to do some things that Floridians really see as a priority. We're still owed money. We're even owed money, all of the local governments. The statute was written that said that all local governments had to support immigration and customs enforcement, and they had to use their best efforts to do so. Failure to do so could subject those local elected officials to removal from office. But what happens when the state of Florida fails to adequately do their jobs? How do they get removed from office? So again, I say this is one of those where they said, do as I say, not as I do. We don't even know where the governor travels with his travel, but the rest of us in the state of Florida, we have to keep detailed records of when we use government money to travel, to go to different places, but yet we cannot see what the governor himself has done. And so it's those types of things that are really kind of out of balance that I look forward to bringing some balance back to the conversation. We can only do that when we have a two-party system at a minimum of working where there's balance to put a check on what we see and do. And there's hope there because just yesterday down in South Florida, Palm Beach County, we saw Emily Gregory win, I think it's House District 87 race. We also saw a Democrat win a special election for the Senate. That's good news because we had saw just back in November, Eileen Higgins, first female, first Democrat in nearly 3 decades elected to the city of Miami. All of those types of things, I think, is good news for the Democrats running during this season to bring back bipartisan leadership in the legislature and here within the state of Florida and across the nation.
And I fully agree. So what I'd like you to do in closing out this session is one thing that you'd like the voters to take away from your campaign and what it is that they can do to help you, where their email or whatever it is that they can have so that they'll be able to contact you if they want to work on your team or whatever the case may be.
I'm running to be the 47th governor of Florida, and I want the people of Florida to know when I get elected, when I take office, I will be there to represent all of us, not just one party, but all of us. If you want to support us in this effort, you can go to my website at jerrydemingsforgovernor.org. We're up Jerry Demings for Gov on different social media platforms, and so you can support us that way. You can sign up to volunteer on our campaign. You can sign up to help us if you believe in supporting the right person at the right time. I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to continue to fight for the people, the overwhelming majority of the people in this state, as I have done now for the last 45 years. May God continue to bless all of you. May God continue to bless the great state of Florida and the United States of America.
And I thank you so much. Listen, you can catch us every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on Roku on the Lit TV network. And you can catch me on Thursday nights at 7:30 on Detroit Hot Television Facebook page. We're asking you, I am in full support of Mayor Jerry Demings, who's running for governor for the state of Florida. I believe that he will do a phenomenal job. Please provide the assistance that he needs to become our next governor. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on my show today.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.